All right then. Okay, so in the last talk, we were talking about how to make use of sitting touching as the primary object. Okay? So, so as we discussed, we can actually make use of this sitting touching as an alternative primary object during the sitting meditation. Okay? So if you find that you have some difficulty using the rising falling as a primary object, you find difficulty discerning it clearly, find difficulty following it continuously because it's not clear. So then you don't have to wait around for the rising, falling to become clear or to come back. So you don't have to wait around in despair. Oh, when is it coming back? When is it coming back? No rising, falling, no meditation. So that is an alternative. So you can switch to using sitting and touching as your primary object. Okay? And as we mentioned, you can even contemplate sitting touching for the entire duration of your sitting meditation. Okay, so you need not switch back to rising, falling. Especially if after switching to sitting touching, you find that noting of sitting touching is going on very well, then you don't have to interrupt it to go back to rising, falling. You can continue using sitting touching. Okay, because sitting touching is just as valid Vipassana object as the rising, falling. Okay? So it is actually rupa. When you contemplate rising, sitting, touching, you're just as rising, falling. You are also contemplating rupa. You're contemplating the body. It's kaya nupassana. Okay, so sitting, for example, as we described the other day, it is the noting of the element of support, the force, the physical force body, keeping it upright. Right? So that is the wind. Okay? So it's a valid vipassana object. Okay? Right? So, can you still receive clearly? You just said that there is an unstable internet connection.
Yeah, just now cannot hear, Bante.
Huh? Cannot hear?
Just now cannot hear. Now okay already.
Now okay.
Miss something important.
Oh, what is it that you miss? You cannot tell because you cannot hear. What was the last thing you heard?
Contemplating on the rupa, also kaya nupassana.
Contemplating of the sitting, touching is also kaya nupassana. Okay, so yeah, so it's just as valid an object as the rising, falling. Okay, because you are contemplating rupa, materiality. Okay, so vipassana object is nama rupa. And so when you contemplate rising, falling, also when you contemplate sitting, touching, you're contemplating rupa. So sitting is the element of support, right? The force, the physical force that keeps the body upright, that supports the body so that it does not fall down. Right? So that is itself the wind element. So When you contemplate the touch sensation, right? When you're not touching, so what do you notice? You notice various physical sensation, hardness or softness, or warm or cold, or pressure. So hardness, softness, that is the what we call the nature of the earth element. So it's a physical nature. That's rupa Dhamma, physical nature. Warmness, coldness, that is the fire element, nature of the fire element. Pressure, again, is the wind element. So yeah, actually, contemplating rupa, various physical nature. Okay? So sitting touching is a valid vipassana object. Okay? So if you find that it works for you, then you don't need to go back to rising falling. You can continue on with the noting of the sitting touching. Okay? In fact, actually, as we understand that actually originally Mahasi Sayadaw did not teach rising falling. So yeah, earlier on it is said, from what we heard, this one we cannot really verify for sure because it is an account passed on in the oral tradition. So, but what we heard is that originally, when Mahasi Sayadaw started teaching, he didn't teach the rising, falling. He teach actually more of the sitting, touching. But later on, because when Mahasi Sayadaw was interviewing some yogis, and then they reported that as they were noting sitting, touching, they noticed the abdomen rising, falling, and then they put their attention there and they noted the rising, falling. And then from how they report, from what they report, Mahasi Sayadaw find that, oh, this is actually very suitable object for the development of Vipassana insight. And those yogis who make use of this object actually make very good progress in their practice. And so from then on, he started to introduce the noting of rising, falling to the yogis who come in for practice. So, so originally, there was no contemplation of rising, falling. So, yeah. So sitting, touching is just as valid an object as rising, falling. Of course, we always encourage yogis to try rising, falling first, because in the experience of many yogis, it is actually a very suitable object for development of vipassana. The wind element tends to appear clearly. The nature of wind element tends to appear clearly when you contemplate the rising, falling. Okay. But feeling that, then don't despair. There is still the alternative, sitting, touching. Now, this sitting, touching, it is not just helpful as an alternative primary object, not just helpful as an alternative to rising, falling. Okay, so, but it can also be used for other purposes. For example, it can help you to arouse the noting energy. So it can help you to pump more energy into the noting mind. Willing, you want to mute them first? Let's mute all. I will unmute myself. Okay, you continue. Mm. Yeah, so sitting touching can help us to bring out more energy in the noting mind. Okay? So when you use rising falling as an object, so rising falling, it tends to be you can say a calming object, object that calms the mind down, especially and after you have been practicing for some time and you have developed the noting mind very well. So the mind calms down. When you develop a little bit of samadhi, the mind starts to calm down, it starts to settle down. And when the mind calms down, the body also become relaxed. When the body becomes relaxed, the breathing also slows down. And then it tends to become this slow, rhythmic movement, which can be very calming. And when you contemplate this slow, rhythmic movement, it tends to induce a good degree of calmness. It tends to induce deep samadhi, deep concentration. Okay? Mm. But often we find that in this state of samadhi, the yogis, especially beginners yogis, they do not exert enough effort to note the rising falling, to explore into the nature of the rupa that's present in the rising falling. So yeah, deep state of concentration. Okay, but at the same time, the mind is not exerting enough energy to explore the nature of the rupa. Okay? So there's not enough energy to balance the samadhi. Okay, so at this time you need to the mind becomes tend to become very still. You are still following, following rising, falling, rising, falling, but you are not really discerning clearly the nature of the rupa, the nature of the rising, falling. Okay, the mind is simply just following. So when asked you during interview, can follow rising very well, no problem. Describe rising, falling, up and down, and more than that they cannot describe. Right? So, that means the nature of the object is not clear. So you really discern clearly, you'll be able to report more things than simply just up and down. So when you find your mind in such a state of imbalance, too much concentration, you need to dial up the energy in the noting mind. One thing you can try, one thing you can do is you can try to pump in more energy directly into the noting mind. That means when you note, you really make effort, you step up the effort when you note in order to feel more carefully, feel more clearly the nature of the rupa that is present. So when we say to feel the nature of the rupa, means remember what the exercise we did when Friday, last Wednesday. Ask you all to put your hand on the floor, on the table, and feel the different physical sensation that is present. That's what we mean. Explore the nature of the rupa. Okay? So you make more effort, you put more effort into the noting in order to feel more carefully, more clearly the nature of the various physical sensation that may be present in the rising, falling. Okay. However, when the mind, when the samadhi is already very deep and the mind is so still, sometimes you really need to exert a lot of energy simply just to move the mind. Okay, so that's why actually it is another easier way to pump in more energy into the noting mind is simply to switch from noting rising falling to noting sitting touching. So so you switch to noting or sitting touching in order to arouse, bring up, step up more energy into your noting mind. Okay? But for this purpose, in order to bring more energy into the noting mind, when you note the sitting touching, you need to increase the number of touch points, take more touch points. Okay? So on Wednesday, so I mentioned that 2 touch point is enough. But when you want to bring up more energy, you need to take more than 2 touch points. So 3, 4, even 5 is if necessary. So and also when you note whether sitting or touching, you need to note more energetically. Okay, so like when you're not sitting, don't just note sitting, put more energy to note more energetically, more firmly. Sitting. Every time you note sitting, you put effort into the noting to feel as clearly as you can the nature of the physical sensation and the nature of the rupa present in the sitting. Okay, so you need to make effort also to note precisely, so that is clear. Okay, so same thing when you note touching, so don't note touching, very slow. You need to increase the speed, okay, and note energetically, firmly, vigorously, touching, continuously. Every time you note touching, be precise in the noting. Make effort to feel clearly the sensation connected with the touch experience. Okay? So in this way, you alternate as usual between noting of sitting and touching. Okay, so you're not sitting, touching, sitting, touching, not quickly. So because you're making a lot of effort when you're doing this exercise. So first of all, your mind, you're noting, you keep switching from sitting to touching, from touching back to sitting, from sitting to another touch point again, and then back to sitting. And then as you're noting, continuously you're applying the mind energetically on the object. So every time you're not sitting, you're applying the mind, applying continuously. So you're activating this, the vitaka, the application of mind. Okay, when you're not touching, so you're applying vitaka, again and again. Okay? So when you do this exercise, you are making the mind work. The mind have to do more work. Okay, so and there's a lot of vitaka. Keep applying continuously, moment after moment after moment. So because of all this energetic work, after some time you find that it arouses a lot of energy in the noting mind. After some time, you find the mind becomes energetic and fresh again. Okay. So when you find that the mind has become energetic and fresh again, and is flowing, the noting is flowing on smoothly, moment after moment after moment, noting continuously. So, no. So when that happened, you can either switch back to noting of the rising, falling. Okay? And when you switch back to noting rising, falling, you find that now becomes clearer. Okay, so you're not just following rising, falling. Yeah, you can feel clearly. Sorry, you can feel clearly all the sensations. So, or if you find that noting or sitting, touching is going on very well, then you don't need to switch back. If you don't want to, you don't need to switch back to rising, falling. Continue noting of rising, falling. I mean sitting, touching. Okay. Yeah. But after a while, you may find that as you continue, because you're taking so many touch points, after a while you may find that the energy may become too much. Right? So if you decide to continue with the noting or sitting, touching, and you find that the energy is too much, the mind is starting to become uncomfortable, tense, and you can reduce the number of touch points. Okay. Yeah. So usually we make use of this method when we are attacked by the hindrance of sleepiness or drowsiness. So, so when in an interview, often in an interview, when you report that you have a lot of difficulty with sleepiness, drowsiness, the teacher will instruct you to not sitting, touching, right? So you have to use the same method. Okay, you have to take more touch points. Okay, so to overcome sleepiness, you need to use many touch points. You need to really make the mind work to wake up the mind. Okay, and you need to note vigorously, energetically, firmly, precisely. Okay, so now. So with noting of sleepiness and drowsiness, so this hindrance is a very powerful object. It can be very overwhelming, right? So it can swallow up your entire mind. So, so when you note, when you're overcome by sleepiness, drowsiness, you really need to step up your effort. Okay, so first of all, when you note sleepiness, you need to be very determined in noting of sleepiness or drowsiness. Otherwise, it will overcome. So you have to summon up the viriya, summon up a lot of energy, and charge up the noting mind. Okay? And then send the noting mind right into the center of the sleepiness. So you have to note with when you note sleepiness, you have to really note energetically. You don't note sleepy, sleepy, sleepy. You will fall asleep. You will surely overcome the mind. You really have to put in the effort and note firmly sleepy, 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 sleepy. Every time you note, really pinpoint accurately the sleepiness. Not with that kind of interest to find out what is this nature of the sleepiness. How is it like? Why is it so heavy? Why is it so powerful? You not. You observe carefully in order to find out the nature of the sleepiness. Okay? And with sleepiness also, you really need to stand your ground. As I say, it's a very powerful object. You really need to stand your ground. No matter what happens, you must have the effort to hold on to the mindfulness and don't let go. You must stand your ground. Just like when in the I always talk about kung fu movies because I watched a lot of kung fu movies growing up. So in the kung fu movie, when the two opponents want to fight, before they fight, they stare at each other. They stand there and then they stare at each other. So they stand their ground. So it's not like the hero saw the opponent immediately scared and run away. No, that when the hero saw his opponent, his enemy, he will stand his ground and stare at him. The harder that person stare at him, he stare back with more determination. He stand his ground. He doesn't run away. Right? So you must stand your ground when you're not sleepiness. You don't say sleepiness, impossible to know. Give up. That's it. Then it will surely overcome you. So you must be very determined, very courageous to not sleepiness. Put in the effort, not, sleepy. If you really not, and you must really put all the energy into the noting. Sleepiness, just like any state of mind. If you deprive it of energy also, it cannot go on. So you direct all the mental energy into the noting mind. So all the mental energy channel into the noting mind. So no more energy left for the sleepiness to overcome the mind. Then it will fall away naturally. Okay, so you're not in a very determined fashion. You're not sleepy. And not in order to find out the nature of sleepiness. Not in a way that you fight with the sleepiness to push it away, to hammer it down. It's a very violent way of noting. So not in such a way to find out the nature of the sleepiness. So sleepiness, is a very shy state of mind. When you want to find out its nature, it shy away. It falls away from the mind. Then the mind, you can see it disappearing. When you see it disappearing, you see the change in the state of mind. So before that, it was very heavy, very dark, very blur. Suddenly, the mind becomes very light, very bright, very clear. You can see when the sleepiness disappears, the change in the state of mind. So after it disappears, then what do? Don't go back to rising, falling. Okay, go and not sitting, touching, and make sure you do it energetically. You're not sitting, touching, sitting, continuously. Not take many touch points, makes the mind work. Because now you need to charge up the noting mind. Because the sleepiness, when it disappears, it only stay away temporarily. It will come back. Okay? In our experience, it will come back. Experience of many yogis, it will come back. So, in order to prepare the mind for the second wave, so you need to charge the noting mind with energy. So you make use of sitting, touching. No, not vigorously sitting, touching, sitting again and again. Okay, so bring up a lot of energy in your noting mind. Then when the second wave hits, then you are ready with so much energy in the noting mind. Again, you direct the noting mind right into the center of the drowsiness, the sleepiness. You're not in the same way, not with determination, not in order to see clearly the nature of the sleepiness. So when it disappears again, come back, sitting, touching again. Often you have to repeat this process times before finally the sleepiness stay away completely. It may take up to half an hour sometimes. Some yogis have very heavy sleepiness, even longer. Some yogis almost every sitting. So especially first few days of retreat. So when you are just trying to settle into the routine of the retreat, so you're often attacked by sleepiness repeatedly. So you have to be very determined and not give up. Every time you attack, you note it with energetic noting. Okay, when it goes away, then you use sitting, touching to bring up energy in the noting mind. Okay, so when you use sitting, touching as your primary object, okay, so you have one advantage in the sense that you can make use of the sitting, touching to help bring balance to the noting mind, especially to the energy of the noting mind. You can do so by simply adjusting the number of touch points that you use. Okay, so for example, you find that noting mind not enough energy, so you want to increase the energy. Then you can do so by increasing the number of touch points. Okay, and of course, you note more quickly, more vigorously. Okay, so and on the other hand, if you find that there is too much energy, then you can regulate. You can regulate the energy by reducing the number of touch points. Okay, so from 5 and down to 4, or down to 3, even down to 2. So, and also you can like slow down the noting a little bit. Okay, yeah. So in this way, you can make use of the number of touch points in order to regulate the energy of the noting mind. Okay? And since concentration samadhi is also often connected with the energy level of the noting mind, so you can make use of the number of touch points also in order to regulate the samadhi, the concentration. Okay? So if you find that there's too much samadhi, so how do you know when there's too much samadhi? You find that the mind becomes too still. Okay, so when the samadhi is peaceful, it is at ease, it is comfortable, it can follow the object continuously, it sticks to the object. Okay, but when there's too much samadhi, then the noting mind also kind of become frozen. Frozen in the sense that it is simply just following the object, but not doing much in order to investigate clearly, explore clearly into the nature of the object. Okay? It's simply just following the object. So it becomes kind of like samatha. Okay? Yeah. So in this case, how do you regulate? You need to pump in more energy into the noting mind in order to balance up the samadhi. So you can do so by increasing the touch points, and also increasing the speed of your noting. And also each time you not really make a concerted effort in order to explore clearly into the nature of the rupa, the physical sensation that is present. So make more effort in the mind to feel more clearly the nature of the physical sensation present in the sitting or the touching. Okay? On the other hand, if there's not enough samadhi, so if there's not enough samadhi, then you find the mind is very easily distracted. So very easily it wanders away from the object. Okay? It doesn't stick continuously with the object that is being noted. Okay? So often it is due to too much energy in the noting mind. So in order to regulate this again, you reduce the number of touch points. Okay, so sometimes it may be necessary to reduce if the energy too much. You may even have to reduce it up to just one touch point. So just sitting and touching the same touch point. Okay? So you hold the attention still on the touch point, touching, and then sitting, back to the same touch point. So after a while, when the mind calms down, so it begins to settle down. So in this way, you can increase the samadhi. Okay? So now, sitting, touching is also often added to the noting of rising, falling. Okay, so when this is especially after the yogi has been practicing for some time, will be making effort to note rising, falling continuously, precisely, clearly. After some time, the noting mind develops. So mindfulness becomes strong. There's some concentration present. So when this happens, the yogi begin to notice more and more things as he or she is noting. Okay, so things become clearer. So you begin to notice more and more things as you are noting each object. So one of the things that you may notice is that when you're not rising and falling, right? So you notice that the end of the rising, when rising comes to an end, the falling movement does not immediately follow. So there is like a gap in between, a short gap between the rising and falling. Okay? Similarly, between the falling, the end of the falling, and the beginning of the rising also, there is a short gap. Okay? So they do not follow immediately. Okay? So what do you do? So don't just sit there waiting. Rising finish, okay, take a rest before the falling begin. So as we say, anupassana, the noting must carry on continuously. So you fill in the gaps. How to fill in the gaps? You can insert the noting of sitting or touching, or noting of both sitting and touching in between in the gap. Okay, so for example, you note rising, finish, and then there's a gap. Then you switch to noting, touching. And then the falling movement begins, and you're not falling. Then it stops. Then there's a gap, so you're not touching. And then rising again, so you're not rising. So you fill in the gap. Or you fill in the gap with sitting, noting or sitting. And so rising, then sitting, then falling, sitting. So like this. So if your noting is very fast, some yogi, your noting is very swift, very agile, then they can insert both sitting, touching. Rising, sitting, touching. They can note very quickly. And then falling, then sitting, touching, and then rising. Another combination is you can do like rising, then you're not sitting, then falling, you're not touching, and then rising, sitting. You can try, experiment with various combination of noting of the rising, falling, sitting, touching. Okay, but the idea is to fill in the gaps in between the rising and falling, so that the noting goes on continuously as anupassana. Okay? As we said, this is important for the development of the noting mind. Okay, okay, so we have talked about sitting meditation, okay? Using either rising, falling, or sitting, touching as the primary object. Okay, so but in a meditation retreat, when you are meditating continuously throughout the day, so you cannot sit the whole day, right? You need to get up at some point. So therefore, you come to the second part of the retreat, which is a walking meditation. So you need to get up and do some walking meditation. So, so after about 1 hour of sitting meditation, so you get up in order to do the walking meditation. Okay, so this actually helps to bring balance into our practice. Okay, so especially in intensive retreat, when we meditate the whole day through, we need to make sure that the mind is always balanced. Okay, so and one of the strategy to balance the noting mind is to balance using the posture to balance the noting mind. Okay, so using sitting and walking. Okay, so so the sitting posture. Okay, when you do sitting meditation, sitting posture. So you sit still, you do not, or you're not supposed to move. So when you don't move, so can you hear? Can you hear? It keeps telling me the connection is unstable. Okay. So because the posture is still, so the mind can settle down more easily. It can sink more easily into samadhi. Okay, so the sitting posture tends, in the sitting posture, the yogi tends to develop deeper concentration. It tends to develop more concentration. So if you sit too long, longer and longer and longer, then you begin to develop more and more concentration. Okay, so after some time, too much concentration, and then the mind can become imbalanced. So become too still. So you need to activate the noting mind again. So to do so, you can get up to do the walking meditation. Okay? So walking meditation is a moving posture. So the posture is more active. Okay, so so you have to make effort to follow an active movement. Okay, so so the noting also is very active, right? So so you have to follow continuously, make effort, lifting, 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 pushing, 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 placing, 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 placing. So so you so when you have to note like this, it helps to arouse a lot of energy. It brings out a lot of effort. It takes a lot of effort to note this moving object. So it brings out a lot of energy in the noting mind. So it helps to balance up the concentration from the sitting meditation. Yeah. So walking meditation is a very important part of intensive meditation retreat. Okay? So it's one of the strategy to bring balance to the noting mind. There's always a reason why Mahasi Sayadaw structured the meditation retreat in this way. Okay? Every single instruction that Mahasi Sayadaw gave, there's a reason behind it. So that's why you do not understand the reason behind this. Don't try to change the structure of the meditation retreat. So in Chinese we say "gai gao," trying to be too clever. You must know the reason behind it first. So, so it helps. This 1 hour of sitting, 1 hour of walking continuously throughout the day, it helps to bring balance to the noting mind, so that the meditation can be lasting and progressive. If the mind is imbalanced, so for example, too much energy, the meditation will not be lasting. And you start to feel a lot of stress and tension. After a while, you give up. So if there's too much concentration, yes, it's very nice, very peaceful, very excuse me, very calming. So the mind is simply following the object without exploring the nature of the object. And then meditation will not be progressive. So in Vipassana meditation, we consider the meditation is progressive when the insight is developed and it reach deeper and deeper and deeper. That's called progressive. You simply follow the object. No matter how good you can follow the object. You can sit for 6 hours without moving. You can follow rising, falling continuously, but you don't explore the nature of the object clearly. That is now called progressive Vipassana meditation. For samatha, yes. But for Vipassana, no. But some yogis do not like to do walking meditation. So some they meditate with this attitude. Walking meditation is just to fill in the time in between the sitting meditation. Yeah, You can mute them first. Okay. Yeah. So when you meditate with this attitude, you don't put enough effort into the walking meditation. You just chin chai, do just to fill in the time. Then very quickly you want to go back to the sitting meditation. Some yogis don't even want to do the walking meditation. So some yogis have asked me before in the interview, Bante, can I just skip the walking meditation? I just do sitting. So they don't want to do walking meditation. But then when we say, no, you must do walking meditation, not very happy, but forced to do. So when they do they again don't put in effort. So you want to quickly return to the sitting meditation, to the state of samadhi, to the calmness, peacefulness in the sitting meditation. Very nice. So they think only through sitting meditation you can develop samadhi. Walking meditation, how to develop samadhi? So, but don't underestimate the samadhi that can develop during walking meditation. It can last very long. It can be very strong and powerful. Buddha says in Chankamana Sutta. Chankamana Sutta. Yeah, or Chankama Sutta. I can't remember the name. It's in Anguttara Nikaya. So he says, Chankama Digato Samadhi Chira Titiko Hoti. So that means the concentration from walking meditation can last very long. Okay? So if you do your walking meditation properly, so you put effort into noting of the steps continuously. Lifting, pushing, dropping. You not continuously. If you do it properly, continuously, with effort in every moment of noting, the concentration can develop. And this concentration is closer to the type of concentration that we want to develop in Vipassana meditation. In sitting meditation, rising, falling, especially the concentration, if you're not careful, it can tend to slide towards more the samatha type of concentration. If you do not put enough effort into exploring the nature of the object, it can tend to slide towards that. Okay? But in walking meditation, so it tends to go more towards the vipassana kind of concentration, because it's a very active object. So when you note it, you tend to notice more of the nature of the steps. Okay, and this concentration can become, if you do it properly, it can become very steady, very stable. As the Buddha says, it can last very long, and it can it can carry over even to your sitting meditation. Okay, that is provided you don't give up the meditation after the bell ring 1 hour. You carry the meditation, the mindfulness continuously to your sitting meditation seat. And then you note continuously as you sit down, and then you start your sitting meditation. Then it will carry over to your sitting meditation. And it can bring balance to your sitting meditation. Okay? So, because the kind of concentration that you develop in walking meditation is more balanced because there's energy in the sitting meditation. I mean, in the walking meditation, because you have to note an active object that is moving continuously. You have to make effort. Okay, so it can last very long. It can bring balance. This concentration is more balanced. Okay, when you bring it over to your sitting meditation, it can bring balance to your sitting meditation. Can even help to develop very deep insight, even insight that leads to attainment of arahantship. Okay, so y'all know the story of Venerable Ananda. So how did Venerable Ananda attain arahantship? So y'all know, right? So on the eve of the first Samgayana, the first Buddhist council, so Venerable Ananda was striving very hard to attain arahantship. He was already a Sotapanna, but he was invited to attend the first Buddhist council, invited by Venerable Mahakassapa. So there are 500 monks that he invited. One of them is Venerable Ananda. Okay, and Venerable Ananda is to play a very important role during the council, because he is the disciple, attendant of the Buddha, very close to the Buddha. He has heard all the suttas that the Buddha has delivered, okay? And he has memorized all of them, not just from the Buddha, not just suttas from the Buddha, also from the other disciples. So he was to play a very important role in the council. But then all the other 499 elders, they were all arahants. So he thought it is not proper for him to attend the council as a Sotapanna. Okay? So he strived very hard. So in order to attain arahantship. So it is said that he did walking meditation throughout the night. So it's very common during the Buddha's time. So you find monks, when they adopt a certain meditation posture, they adopt it for a very, very long time. When they sit many, many hours. When they walk also, they walk many, many hours. So Venerable Ananda, he was doing walking meditation throughout the night. So 3 watch of the night. But then when dawn arrived, he was still a Sotapanna, not yet attained arahantship. So he thought that, he had been doing walking meditation throughout the night. So maybe he should balance it up by doing lying meditation, meditating in the lying posture. Okay, so he decided to walk towards his bed. Okay, but he did not give up his noting. He note continuously, right step, left step, right step, left step, something like that. We do not know exactly how he noted. You see, but we know that he's continuously noting. And then as he sit down on the bed, he was noting and then as he lie down, as he lift his feet from the ground, as he lie down, he was noting continuously, anupassana. So it is said that before his head touches the pillow, he attained enlightenment, become an arahant. So you see, throughout the whole night, continuously he was doing walking meditation. Okay? Then because of this momentum from the whole night of practice, so all he has to do is to just balance it up a little, and then he attained arahantship. So walking meditation can even help you to attain arahantship. So that's how important walking meditation is. Okay, okay, it's 9:35 already. So if I were to start talking about how to note during walking meditation, we'll be here until 10 o'clock. So I think I'll talk about this more in the next Dhamma talk. Okay, so but maybe just to share with you this sutta. So yeah, so it's called Cankama Sutta. Very short sutta in Pancaka Nibbata Pali, Anguttara Nikaya, the book of the fives. So Buddha says there are these 5 benefits of walking meditation. Okay? So what are the 5? Okay? So one becomes capable of journey. So bhikkhu body translated as one is capable of journey. So in the Pali it says adana kamo. Kamo means you can endure. You can endure long journey. That's the meaning. So not that he is capable of journeys. Everybody is capable of journey, except a sick person. Okay, so what it means is that you can endure journey. So that means you can travel very far without getting tired. That's one of the benefits of walking meditation. Second one is padana kamo. So you have endurance in striving. Not that he becomes capable of striving. He has endurance. When he strives in meditation, he has the endurance. Okay, you don't give up easily. So, and one becomes healthy. Apabado hoti, yes. So we have apabado means very little sickness. So one becomes healthy. Okay lah, this translation. So it means that apabado means little sickness. You become very strong because you're moving your body. Because walking meditation, walking is actually one of the exercise that the Buddha allowed for the monks. Walking and also sweeping. Sweeping the monastery. That is the only 2 exercise that the Buddha allowed. So, so when you walk, of course when we say walk, don't walk 5 minutes, walk 1 hour. Then after a while, you do this again and again, the body tends to become very strong. You strengthen the body. If you sit too long, after a while, the body, because the circulation tends to get blocked when you do sitting meditation too long. So in Chinese system of medicine, they say the qi also blockages of qi leads to sicknesses. Okay, so when you walk, you allow the circulation to move, and you become more healthy. Okay. Then asitam pitam kayitam sayitam sama parinamam gacchati. So this means that what we have eaten, drunk, consumed, tasted, become properly digested, fully digested. Parinamam gacchati. Yeah, fully digested. So it helps in the digestion also. You sit too long, you may get constipation. So that's why I balance out with walking meditation. So then your food becomes properly digested. The bowel movement also becomes more smooth. Okay. So if the bowel movement is constipated, you find very difficult to meditate. You feel a lot of discomfort, like something stuck there. So, and then the last one is what we mentioned just now. Chankamadikato samadhi chira titiko hoti. So, the concentration attained through walking meditation, it is long-lasting. So according to the commentaries, so if one has acquired the sign of the concentration, sign of concentration simply means the object. So you get the object clearly, that is a sign of concentration. So if you acquired the sign of concentration while standing up, it is lost when one sits down. If one has acquired the sign while sitting, it is lost when one lies down. But for one who has resolved on walking up and down and acquire the sign of in a moving object, it is not lost even when one stands still, sits down, and lies down. Okay? So, because it takes a lot of effort to follow a moving object. Okay? So if you can follow a moving object continuously with focused attention, that concentration can carry over when you into a meditation in a still posture. Okay, because it's more difficult to stay focused when the object is active, is moving. So when the object is still, like in sitting meditation, then it's more difficult. I mean, it's more easy to follow. Lack of mindfulness sometimes in talking. Okay, so we stop here for today. So there's some question in the chat room. One is this is a comment. Bhante, it would be good if the sound volume increase a little. Thank you. The sound volume for the microphone is already 100%. Was there a lot of difficulty in listening? No? Okay.
Yeah,
Listen
clearly.
clearly.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So maybe maybe you need to turn up your volume also over the other side. Yeah, sometimes if it's because your volume is turned on too low. So sometimes when I hear you also is too soft, then I also have to turn up my volume over here. Okay. This next question is very long, but I will not read it completely. So, question is, I would appreciate if you could explain as to why Mahasi Sayadaw deviated from Satipatthana Sutta in respect of mindfulness of breathing. The Buddha never said rising, falling from the diaphragm or sitting and touching. He said folded the legs crosswise, set body erect, establish mindfulness in front and mindfully breathing in, breathing out, and so on. So very long. He quoted directly from the section on Anapana. So am I correct to say that Mahasi Sayadaw actually created a new method of meditation based on Satipatthana Sutta? Majjhima 10 is Satipatthana Sutta. I don't know. So This is not the first time that people ask this question. This could be the 100th time that this question was asked. So actually, rising, falling is not based on anapanasati, although it's very similar. But Mahasi Sayadaw himself did not say that it is anapanasati. Okay, so because Mahasi Sayadaw is a very conservative monk. So anapanasati, according to the tradition, means you meditate, you focus on the breathing as you feel it at the tip of the nose. So when you do anapana, you're supposed to focus here. So rising, falling, contemplation of rising, falling is clearly not anapana sati. Although some of the concept of anapanasati can also apply, long rising, long falling, and so on. Okay, so but it is not anapanasati. Okay, so then what is it actually? So you can see, you can say there is a contemplation of the elements, because there is the wind element. Okay, so we contemplate rising, falling as the wind element. Okay, so and it is within this body. Okay, so yeah. So rising, falling actually, in the, what is the name of the sutta? Elephant footprint. Mahahatipadoma Padopama Sutta. Mahahatipadopama Sutta. The greater discourse on the simile of the elephant footprint. So there Venerable Sariputta mentioned about contemplating of the wind element. So he mentioned several kinds of wind element. Okay, so one of them is the wind in the belly. Right? So wind in the belly is the rising, falling. Right? So, yeah. So when you contemplate that, that is the wind element. Okay. I remember Mahasi Sayadaw also explained that it can be also posture of the body, but not the four posture. So the one of it says, because when the Buddha talk about the posture, it says walking, walking, standing, sitting, and then lying down, and then he says, or however the body is disposed. So the rising, falling is one of those minor posture. So the body is disposed in this way. It is rising, it is falling. That is also another. Then it can also be contemplation. One of the contemplation under the sixth sense door, because that is rising, falling is the body door experience. Okay, so of course that is when you do Dhammanupassana. So when you happen to contemplate the rising, falling, then it comes under the body door experience. Okay, that is the Potaba ayatana. Okay, so that is the tactile sensation. So sitting, of course, sitting comes under the posture, meditation on the posture. Okay, then touching the elements, four elements. Okay? So basically, so just rupa, contemplation of rupa. Okay? Yeah. So this method is actually based on this various method that can be found in the sutta. So based on the principle. Generally, you can say that because Vipassana, you understand it properly. It means the object is nama rupa. Okay, so any object that is nama or rupa can serve as object of Vipassana contemplation. Okay? Oh, okay. So this question, Bhante, which are the 5 to 8 touch points? Did I mention 8 touch points? I mentioned up to 5. Huh? 8 is a bit too much already. Okay? That you mentioned for more vigorous noting. Touch points, you can take, for example, I mentioned the other day. So your buttock, right buttock, left buttock, it's touching on the seat. There are 2 points there already. Your legs, right leg, left leg, another 2 points. Right, your hand touching, another point. So there are already 5 points here, which is more than enough. Some yogis I know, they even take the lips touching. So, but when I hear the report, it's very clear, so I allow them, although it's not very, it's not traditional. So, so you can take all these touch points. So, so when we're not sitting, do we scan the back from the top of the head down to the back of the buttock? It's better you just feel the uprightness of the body, the entire sitting posture. Okay, just bring the attention to the body and the uprightness of the body, so you can feel there's a force that holds the body upright. Just feel the entire sensation. Okay, yeah. However, if you want to just use sitting, noting of the sitting, without the touching, in order to stir up the energy, you can actually do the scanning as you mentioned. Okay, so you scan from the top of the head down to the buttock and then up again. So it can help you to stir up a very calming and very balanced energy. Okay? So by you do it slowly, go the head, not feeling, and the neck, then the torso, upper torso, the lower torso, then the base. Okay. Yeah. But this is not the type of sitting meditation that we talk about. So in not sitting, you're supposed to note the force, the wind element that's holding and keeping the body upright and still. That's what we mean by noting or sitting. What's this question? Bhante, we are more mindful of the raising of the head rather than falling of the head when nodding during sitting meditation. How do we deal with this? Be more mindful. Yeah. If we are more mindful, more energetic mindfulness, then you'll be aware. So that's energetic mindfulness. You won't not. Even that the mind is sleepy, you're not sleepy energetically. You will not. Nodding is when you're totally overcome by the sleepiness. Then the mind totally shut off, go into bhavanga. So when the mind goes into bhavanga, you see what is it that holds the body upright? You say the wind element, right? And this wind element is actually In Abhidhamma, we say it is Citta Samudana Rupa. That means mind originated Rupa. Okay? So it is the mind that produces this wind element that holds the body upright. Okay? So as long as you are awake, your body is continuously upright. Okay? Because the waking mind, the mind that is awake, is continuously producing this wind element that holds your body upright. Okay? But when you totally overcome by sleepiness, then the conscious mind, the waking mind disappear. It goes into bhavanga. So when that mind disappear, so the wind element also disappear. So nothing to produce the wind element. So that's why you fall. So that's why the body fall down. Right? But the moment you fall down, because of the speed, and also because it's like when you fall down, it's like your body got a jerk, right? And then your mind wake up. Then the waking mind appear again. The moment it appear again, it starts to produce the wind element again. Then you pull out. That's what caused the fishing, right? So if you are very mindful of the sleepiness, you note the sleepiness, the drowsiness, no, continuously until the sleepiness disappear. You don't allow it to overwhelm the mind. Then the mind will not fall asleep. The sleepiness cannot overwhelm the mind. Then you will not knot. You can stay straight up. Yeah. So sometimes you see a yogi, sitting in the hall, body so straight up. Oh, you think this one must be in very deep samadhi. But for all you know, he's simply a yogi who is very skillful in noting sleepiness. He could be just noting sleepy. And so his body remained still, upright. And the sleepiness disappear. He goes sitting, touching. And sleepiness come again. He's not sleepy. All the while his body is upright. So be more mindful, more summon up, more energetic mindfulness to knock the sleepiness, the drowsiness of mind. So sometimes the object can be either a sound or a visual object. Do we choose one, even if both are prominent? Example, hearing and seeing of water drops. How do we deal with this? Now, I assume this is during the meditation of the daily activities. So depending on what is prominent, you just know. If both are prominent, so then you just pick one. The mind will know what to pick. So I just let the mind pick. Seeing, hearing. Okay, so next this question. You mentioned Venerable Ananda's enlightenment at the eve of the first Buddhist council. So he was a Sotapanna at the eve, and before his head touches the bed, he attained arahantship. Wonder how did Venerable Ananda able to skip Sakadagami and Anagami attainment and attain arahantship, apart from practicing walking meditation? Actually, it does not skip. Right? Yeah. So when we say he attained arahantship, we are just using a shortcut expression instead of saying, "Oh, he attained in sequence, the Sagadagami and then Anagami and then Arahant. So we straight away say he attained Arahantship. Okay? Yeah, you cannot skip. Must attain in sequence. Okay? So, because each of the magga will clear away some of the defilements. If you skip, that means some of the defilements will be skipped. Okay? So it goes in sequence. So sometimes in the sutta, you don't mention everything. Okay? So in commentaries also sometimes you don't mention everything. So you must understand. You must fill in the blanks. Because you want to mention in detail, then we have to say, first he attained Sakadagami Magga, and then Sakadagami Phala, and then Anagami Magga, and then Anagami Phala, and then Arahata Magga, and then Arahata Phala. It's very long. It's easier to just say he attained Arahantship. Okay, so this question is, you mentioned that after 1 hour sitting meditation, then it's good to switch to walking. My question is, must I start with sitting, then followed by walking? It's better to start with walking, and then do the sitting. Okay, so as we said, the concentration developed in walking meditation lasts very long, and then you carry over to your sitting meditation, and it's also a more balanced kind of concentration. So it carries over to your sitting meditation. It's better. So to start with walking meditation. Can I walk? Sorry. Second question is, must the time be exactly 1 hour for each posture? What if I, then nothing? So more or less the same. Okay, so you don't have to be exactly to the second, more or less the same. So then it will be balanced. Okay, so so sometimes a yogi say, I want to sit longer. Then I say, then you walk longer. So it must be more or less the same. Okay, I think this is the last question. Okay, so it's from the same questioner just now. So who asked about whether Mahasisya deviated from Satipatthana Sutta. He says, I did not quote from Anapanasati Sutta, which is Majjhima 118. I quoted from Majjhima 10 Satipatthana Sutta. Yeah. So, but under Satipatthana Sutta, Anapanasati Pabba section on in-out breath. So there, the Buddha taught Anapanasati. Okay? The first tetrad of Anapanasati. I was referring to that, not referring to Anapanasati Sutta. Okay? So is Vipassana directly corresponding to Satipatthana Sutta? So, how to say? Yeah, Satipatthana Sutta. Okay, so it leads to Vipassana. Okay? The development. So later on, when we continue the Satipatthana Sutta, so you find that in each section of the Satipatthana Sutta, at the end of it, the Buddha talk about development of insight. Insight is Vipassana. They ask you to contemplate the nature of arising, the nature of disappearing, both nature arising and disappearing, and so on. Okay, so that is Vipassana. Yeah. So So Vipassana, so you have to understand what is Vipassana. So you ask here, is there a word Vipassana in the sutta? Yeah, there is. No mention of Vipassana in Satipatthana Sutta. It doesn't need to be mentioned. Did the Buddha ever mention Vipassana? It's the word created by Mahasi Sayadaw. No, the word Vipassana is in the sutta. So, no, but you have to understand what is Vipassana. Even if it is not mentioned in the sutta, if you really understand what is the meaning of Vipassana, and then you will find actually it is all over the suttas. Okay, what is Vipassana? Vipassana, insight. Insight into what? Insight into nature of the nama rupa, insight into their nature of impermanent, suffering, non-self, anicca, dukkha, anatta. Did the Buddha thought about the nature of nama rupa, about the nature of anicca, dukkha, anatta? It is all over the suttas, right? So every time you see the Buddha talk about anicca, dukkha, anatta, 5 aggregates, 6 sense bases, 18 elements, he's talking about Vipassana. Okay, so you understand what is Vipassana. Everywhere you look in the sutta, there is Vipassana. Okay, the word may not be mentioned, but it is Vipassana. Okay, yeah. So Vipassana is in the Bhaddekarata Sutta. So the Buddha have this instruction. So Pachupanancha yo Dhammo tata tata vipassati. So the presently arising Dhamma, nature. Dhamma here means nature. That means nama rupa Dhamma, a physical nature, mental nature. That is presently arising, Pachupana. So, so what do you do? The Pachupanancha Yodhamma, the presently arising object, presently arising nature. The Buddha says, Tata, Tata, Vipassati. So, right there, right where it arises, Tata, Tata, Vipassati. Vipassati means what? Vipassati is a verb. So, the noun is Vipassana. Okay? Vipassana is a noun. It means insight. Insight into the nature of impermanent suffering non-self. Okay? So Vipassati, tata tata Vipassati. So the presently arising nature. Tata tata Vipassati. Right there, where it arises, you have to practice Vipassana. You have to discern it clearly, with clear insight into its nature. So you tell me whether the Buddha taught Vipassana or not. Okay, so that is all the questions that we have tonight, and it is already very late. So, so we stop here tonight. Imaya Dhamma Dhamma Patipatiya Buddham Pujemi. Imaya Dhamma Dhamma Patipatiya Dhammam Pujemi. Imaya Dhamma Dhamma Patipatiya Sangham Pujemi. Imaya Dhamma Dhamma Patipatiya Mata Pitunam Bujemi. Imaya Dhamma Dhamma Patipatiya Acariyanam pujemi Adha imaya patipadaya Jaramranamha parimocesami Idame punyam asavakaya vaham hotu Idame punyam nibbanassa pacayo hotu Idame silam magaphalanyanassa pacayo hotu Imam no punyabhagam sabbasatanam dema Imam no punyabhagam sabbasatanam dema Imam no punyabhagam sabbasatanam dema Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. So may all of you be well, happy and peaceful always. May you all be healthy, strong, safe. May your practice of Dhamma be free from obstacles, be free from troubles. May you be able to practice smoothly, and may you all be able to experience the unconditioned peace of Nibbana through your practice of the Dhamma.